the resource of love is like an unlimited resource, and you can give that love to anybody.
Escaping that capitalistic notion that you always need to have more or to be more.
People often look at like the finished product of things and kind of just assume, oh, I need to get to there.
Why can't these animals that we share the same lineage with share the same similar experience?
Acceptance of the self.
Yeah.
From the moment we're born to the moment we die, that's one of the main driving forces of existence.
Only constant in life is that things change. I knew that it was never going to be the same.
Hello everybody, welcome to a very special video. Today I'm finally launching the first episode of my podcast, Thinking Out Loud. This podcast is all about tapping into many different topics: human dynamics, spirituality, philosophy, the ideas of like self-love and confidence, and how you can start really building that for yourself, both in your personal life, in your relationships, and in your professional life. And some of the people that I'm going to be having on in this podcast have truly inspired me in my life and have been really influential in allowing me to grow and become the person that I am now. And they still continue to inspire me and challenge me every single day. So I'm really excited to share these people with you and share these conversations. I'm sure that they're going to inspire you just as much as they've inspired me, and hopefully give you a fresh perspective that maybe you haven't thought about before. I recorded this podcast a long time ago, back in January 2022, when I was still living in Newcastle, and it was very early on. We were just beginning our sort of proper journey with Whole Earth Productions, and we thought we were going to be going traveling in May, but actually we didn't end up leaving until September. It's quite nice looking back at these conversations and seeing quite how far we've come since that time. And definitely we'll be doing another podcast again in the future with Louis, where we can talk a little bit more about how life is now that we are actually on that journey of traveling and working digitally as nomads, and just experiencing the life that we were so excited about back then when we first recorded this episode. On that note, let's begin the first episode with my now fiancé, Louis. Hi, Louis.
Hello.
So you're my special guest. Louis is my boyfriend for like 3.5 years now, and soulmate. Like, we've fallen in love like super quick back in the day, and just ever since we've been like best friends, just doing everything together. So you're a really special guest, and my first guest that I'm probably going to show, even though I've recorded quite a few episodes before this one. I feel like it's only right that this is the one that I post first, because it's a good introduction to a bit of the backstory of my life as well as yours. So
Definitely. Great to be here.
Yeah.
Very excited.
yeah, me too. We've just been packing, getting ready to leave Newcastle. So this is going to be the last time that we get to record, I guess from your perspective, the first time we get to record an episode in this little sofa session studio, which is quite nice. But yeah, we've just been frantically packing this morning and
Like crazy.
crazy.
It's been beautiful being here. Been here for a few months now. And yeah, it's been a great experience. Lovely place, Newcastle, but all good things come to an end.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
have to let go.
Yeah, it's good. It's good that we're going to go and have a bit of time back home with some family, because Newcastle is really far away from London. So it is a bit of a trek seeing family and friends. So I guess we maybe should get started by just talking about maybe a little bit about you and what you're all about, and maybe how we met. Does that sound good to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your story in life?
Okay. What's your story? Okay. Once upon a time. Well, I'm from England, as you can tell
Yeah.
by my accent.
Mhm.
Southeast England. Born from two lovely parents, and have an amazing sister.
Mhm.
Very nice family. Sort of didn't have a clue what I wanted to do in my life when I was 16, sort of ish.
Mhm.
And I was going to do electrical engineering, and I thought, oh, I hate the sound of that. It sounds boring. I went to the workshop and I was like, nah, can't be bothered.
Why were you going to do that?
Because my dad did it.
Mm.
And it's just like classic, like, oh, your dad did it, maybe it'd be good if you did it.
Mhm.
I had no idea what I wanted to do. As you do as a 16-year-old, like,
Yeah.
I thought I knew, trust
Mhm.
me, I thought I knew everything when I was like 16, but looking back, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
I'm sure I feel the same now.
Yeah.
I look back and I'll be like 30 and I'll be like, wow, you knew nothing.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a constant cycle of that. But I decided to do photography
Mm.
in the end, and I don't know why. It was just like, it felt like a just felt right. I just felt curious about it. And the first year I sort of was finding my feet in college, and I wasn't really doing much, and I had this conversation with my tutor, and he was basically saying, thankfully, he said to me, if you want to do anything in life, you have to really put an effort in, and what you put in, you will get out. And I was sort of at a point where I was like, you know, I can't just fuck around and do nothing forever. I really do want to make something in my life. So I started trying, and I had a few like quite cool projects, and I really connected with it, and that was really the first thing that I really committed to and show myself that I could do it. So I followed that path for a bit, and then I studied at uni for a year, and then I had this moment where I was like, oh, do you know what, this sort of route that I was going down, I wasn't living in London, I was commuting in, and that point in my life I just felt like something wasn't right, and I thought it was the course and the profession. So I quit uni, and I went to do electrical engineering.
The right path.
Ironically. My 16-year-old self did know something looking in hindsight about that. So I made myself a promise then that I was going to do this 4-year apprenticeship, and I thought, oh, that's a long time. And but I was going to try and find out about the world and discover about myself and just learn and just educate myself. And the main method that I really did that was through podcasts. And that's what I love about podcasts, is you have this long form conversation where you can be encapsulated in this world with just you and the host and the guest or guests, and they can just go through such a wide range of topics. And I just became so interested in life and in learning about loads of different stuff, and yeah, sort of been a journey since then of discovering sort of who I am and like what I believe. And yeah, decided recently before finishing my electrical qualification that I was right when I was 16. But sometimes you have to walk the wrong path for a little bit to realise that it is the wrong path. And I had a few signs from the universe that it wasn't the right thing to do. And thanks to lockdown, before I decided to quit electrics, I bought a camera again, as you know, and I was just going out in nature and just photographing animals and trying to learn how to use it again and taking pictures, and I really loved it. And I realised that I want to do something that I'm passionate about. And you have to spend an awful lot of time at work. And I used to think that you could just do your job, and then in your free time, in the evenings and the weekends and stuff like that, you can do your passions, which you can. But work is also exhausting if you hate it, if you hate what you're doing. And like, sometimes you just want to chill and like spend time with your friends, and then your passions just get pushed away and pushed away and pushed away, and you'll just end up saying, oh, I want to do this forever, and you never do it. And that's something I've definitely struggled with, is like battling that resistance of actually doing the stuff I want to do. So yeah, with a lot of sort of anxiety at the time, I just quit it. I quit the qualification, and pursuing videography now with you, and we're about to start Whole Earth Productions. Got our first projects in the pipeline being made, and our first video is being released soon. So yeah,
I mean, by the time this podcast is up, it probably would have been released already.
Probably would have been released, yeah.
So check out Whole Earth Productions. It's going to be in the description. But yeah, I think definitely you've gone on such a journey since, like, before I met you, but even since I met you like 3.5 years ago. I feel like the journey of watching you like slowly realise that you don't have to live your life according to what someone else tells you your life should look like. You really started to take ownership of what path you want to take, and I think that definitely shows in the fact that you're a lot happier now. I can, like, now you're working like as a handyman alongside doing videography, and it's so nice because you can just go and work whatever hours you want to work, and you can meet people, and it's really nice because you just get to make their day a bit better, give them a really nice like personal service, because you're self-employed and you take a lot more responsibility when you're self-employed, and then after that you can come home and you can do the stuff that you want to do, and it's really nice because I just feel that you're much happier now. Your energy is much more like in a high vibration, and you seem to be attracting all the right stuff to your life now that you're making space for those hobbies. So well done, very proud of you. It's
Thank
really
you.
cool.
But yeah, I was just getting really down, and I was like, didn't know why, because on the surface level, everything was going really well, and I felt really blessed. Like, you know, in November last year, moved out of my mum and dad's house.
Even
and
it was more than last year, 2020, yeah.
2020.
Yeah, over a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Over
ages
a year
ago.
Over a year ago, we moved into Oxford, and at that point, I'd let go of some friendships, and I felt I was vibrating at a much higher frequency.
Yeah.
And these amazing people just came into our life.
Yeah, it was
and
crazy.
It was just like a whirlwind,
Yeah.
and it was sort of the experience that everyone talked about being at uni, like living with your best mates and stuff, and like.
You finally
Yeah.
got to experience that, didn't you?
It
It's
was cool.
interesting because I do feel like we went through like the similar growth period of like letting go of the idea of what we thought we should be doing with our lives at the same sort of time. Because you know, while you had committed to a 4-year apprenticeship after obviously you did a year of uni, in the same amount of time, you know, I committed to like a 5-year course at uni doing automotive engineering, and I realised after like the first year that it's just not what I wanted to do. I literally worked my arse off at college to get the grades that I needed to go to Loughborough, rep in Loughborough, and get to the engineering MEng converted course. And within the first 2 weeks of being there, I knew I was on the wrong course and I was doing the wrong thing. I sort of just realised that it wasn't the right thing for me, and I changed over to a degree in product design. And I actually, even before I did that, I was playing with, should I go into illustration or should I go into product design? And again, like I made the wrong decision. And instead of following my gut instinct, which was to do the more creative course, was like, oh, well, I need to make sure that I do a job that's going to make sure I'm going to make money and I will be secure in my life, because I just had grown up without very much financial security, and I have a lot of voices in my head from my greatest critics in my family who tell me that I need to follow a certain path in order to be successful, otherwise life will be much harder. And also just seeing the financial problems that my dad got into after my mum died, it really made me worried about ever being in that position. So I really wanted to get a degree that would ensure loads of money. And engineering was that degree, but I just hated it. So then I thought, okay, product design, because it's creative and it's kind of engineering and there's always a lot of opportunities. And I went into that and I committed like 4 years of my life, including a placement year, when I moved up to Newcastle for a year to do the degree. And I was really good at it. I got like one of the top grades in the class and it was great. But at the same time, I always kind of knew deep down that it wasn't my forever path. And then I actually got a job straight out of uni working for a company called Oxford Product Design. And that's when, we had been together for a year at this point, and it was really like close to where, well, it looked close on the map anyway, to where you lived with your parents. And one of the reasons I took that job is because I wanted to live with you, to be honest. I was really excited about the idea of living with you. And it also just seemed like a great company. And I then went into the same sort of cycle as you, like just being very unhappy. Because I was like commuting every day, like an hour and a half each way, waking up at pitch black in the morning and then coming back at pitch black at night and having enough time to eat, do jiu-jitsu or gym and then sleep and then do it again. And it was just so draining because I felt like I didn't have any time to do anything for myself. And we were both going through the same thing. We were both, I think, quite depressed about our job situation at the same time. And then the lockdown happened and it was just like the best fucking thing ever, because you got 3 months off, and that's when you sort of rediscovered your love for photography, and you really like started buying loads of camera gear and just, thinking about what you actually wanted to do with your life. And you started having these conversations with me about how you wanted to move away from it. And I also realised, because I wasn't commuting so much, that I really enjoyed having time to paint and to, read and to do exercise and go for walks all day and just like think about the things that actually are important to both of us. And I think we both sort of made that transition slowly over the next year and a half after that point, where we slowly started getting ourselves ready mentally to break away from those jobs. We both got really lucky, and it's really nice to have that breathing room. Like, I really think that there are obviously a lot of things that people talk about that are really bad about COVID, and you can't ignore all of the horrible stuff that's happened. But I think more people need to be talking about the good things that have happened as a result of the circumstances. Like, so many people that I know have realised what their true passions are and how important their families are and stuff, because they've been forced to be with their own thoughts away from all the distractions of society. And yeah, I mean, I don't think I could ever work for someone again, to be honest. Like it's...
Yeah, I feel the same. And like, I had the same, well, a similar experience to you. Like, I always used to want to be a photojournalist, and like they'd have the golden day of photojournalism where like these people would go out on assignment and they would go out to these faraway lands, and they would go to tribes, and they would go to war zones, and they would go and meet amazing people and really embed themselves in it. And the camera was like a passport into someone else's life, and that's what I used to love about it. And this guy came in who was like top of his game, like right now, like the guy currently came into uni. He basically said, if you're going to do this, the industry's changed a lot, and you're going to struggle a lot, and you're going to have to be constantly broke and constantly applying for grants to do these projects, and you're at the mercy of an editor. So I was like, I sort of ruminated on that, and I was like,
doesn't sound fun.
No, doesn't sound fun. And like I really used to romanticize the idea of like war photography, because it was just so deep and the work was so powerful. But like, yeah, I don't want to be in a war.
Yeah.
And I sort of realized that, and yeah, then I was like, what can I do then? I was like, just thinking of stuff I could do, and I thought, you know, I like being outside, so I was like, maybe I'll do forestry, and then I just, you know, did like my dad was like, do you want to do some work experience, my mate? I was like, yeah, right, and I did it, and I was like, yeah, that was pretty good at the time. But yeah, it was just, you know, someone said, oh, be a sparky because you always have a work, you always have security, and like I held to this idea of having a secure job, and like it wasn't till years later when I lost a job twice, I was like, wow, this doesn't exist. Like, and it doesn't matter if you lose your job either, because like you can always find another one. And like, yeah, like you said, being self-employed, I think, is much better if you can do it, and if you can't do it, you're stuck in this job that sucks, and you've got. We're lucky because, you know, I'm 24, you're 26, so like we don't have
kids or anything like that,
or like mortgage or anything like that, so it's much easier for us to
we can
to
take
switch
risks.
paths. But like you can always do it. You just have to prepare and like take time. It might take you 5 years. So like, you know, if you're working 40 hours a week or whatever, and you've got kids and you think, oh, I hate this office job, I'm miserable, I want to get out of it. Maybe think about what would you like to do, and then slowly take steps to do that. Maybe that's like once a week you're going to go and do that thing and perfect that craft until you can slowly build it up, so you've got enough proficiency when you can make a jump, and it's not as scary.
It doesn't have to be just like quitting everything and jumping in head first.
Yeah,
because to be honest, I wasn't ready to do that sort of thing either. Like the idea of like just quitting my job and just going is not something that I felt comfortable with, because I wanted to know that I had a bit of a potential working stream for like my illustration work and my artwork. And yeah, for like I got really lucky. I got put on furlough for 4 months, like full paid for furlough. My company was really good to me, and during that time I just like started working for people and doing like kids book illustrations and trying to build up my website. And you know, I wasted a bit of time following the wrong path and like applying for jobs in like the charity sector, and you know, trying to follow a dream that one of our friends was living, and sort of thinking that that was my path because I was inspired by how free she was living. But I realized through that process that actually I just need to stop lying to myself and just admit, like, I am a creative person. This is my purpose on this planet, is to just be creative in however many ways that might want to express itself. And like, I think sometimes there's a lot of pressure that you need to do great things with your life. You know, like your life needs to leave the planet in this like, you know, amazing state where you have changed everyone's lives, or you've been the hero, or either that, or you've saved and achieved so much in terms of academic or career success. And I felt like pursuing creative things like art, filmmaking, music, that kind of stuff, it has a real capacity to move people, but I felt that it wasn't going to be something that would hit that sweet spot of like, I've changed the world, you know? And that was one of the reasons that I was always like, oh, I'll do product design instead. I could design something that could help fix the climate crisis or whatever. And I think something that I realized along that path of trying to, again, fit myself into someone else's criteria of what I should be in order to find that idea of success, which is different for every single person. And I think we all need to just realize our truth. I realized that actually creativity is a really powerful means of inspiring change, because if you can make a beautiful piece of artwork that connects with someone and it talks to them about something that they have never known how to explain with words, but they just get it, you could make someone feel less alone in that moment. You could inspire someone to connect with something that they've lost, or you can make a video, which is like a short film, that inspires people to reconnect with nature or other people, or to understand a struggle that's happening halfway across the world that they have no way of seeing themselves. I think creativity is probably one of the most powerful ways that we can inspire people, rather than like just making solutions and saying, oh, you know, stick this Band-Aid on, this is going to fix the problem. You also need to inspire people to want that change and to see the value in changing the way that they live their lives to help and benefit other living creatures that we share this planet with, humans and animal. And it was quite a nice, powerful release to actually just finally say, the thing that I have to offer is still valuable, even though it's not like a practical solution. And it is really nice when you free yourself of like the shackles of the shoulds and the expectations of society, and you just say to yourself, like, this is who I am, and I don't fit into the standard narrative of what my life should be about, and that's okay. And it's been really nice, because I don't think that I would have been able to have the courage to do that if it wasn't for you. Like, you supported me the whole way through, and there were loads of times I was like, can I do this? And you were like, yeah, fuck it, just do it. And I really think that I would have given myself a lot more resistance and gone down that path of like following the wrong career for a much longer time had I not had you there telling me that from your perspective it was worth it, and the potential was always there, you know?
Yeah, sometimes you need someone that believes in you regardless.
Yeah.
And like, you've done the same for me. And the only reason I would have done it and made a change is because I saw you as a living example of like, you work your ass off, and like when I'm sleeping or chilling out on the sofa, like you're there like editing videos, I've got to get this video out, or like, you know, I've got to get this project done, and I'm like, yeah, good for you, like you're smashing it, and you're like putting the effort in, and you're really starting to see the results of that. And yeah, it's really inspiring. But yeah, to what you said, like, yeah, letting go of what your parents' expectations of you were, or societally, like what you think you should do, is so freeing. And yeah, just letting yourself like discover what you want to do. And like, there's this notion that when you're 16 or whatever, you should know what you want to do, and then you're going to go to uni and you're going to study that, and then you're going to do it, and then sweet, you're done, sorted, you've done your education, now you can just work for 40 years and you can get the house, and then you can get loads of money and you can be happy. But like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Like, people that are really successful in what they do, however that metric is, if that's like happiness or fulfillment, or like just purely the best at what they do, they've tried loads of different stuff, and they tried loads of different stuff and they didn't like it. Like Tiger Woods, arguably like the best golfer of all time, like he did loads of stuff before that, that's and true. Like it's just the way that it happens. Like, you have to keep trying all these different little things, and then you gain a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of insight from every single thing, and then that will then culminate to give you an understanding, a greater understanding of what you want to do later in life. Like, you can't be a good artist if you don't do anything. Like, how are you going to have a voice in whatever, in however you express that voice, if you've got no life? Like, you can't be a good stand-up comic if you haven't lived and you haven't got stories. You just be like, well,
you've got nothing to draw
from.
No
stories. It'd be boring.
Just making up stories based on other people's experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that rings true for everything though. And like, we talk about this a lot, how like, if you want to be good, like the best you can be at something, you need to have other aspects of your life that feed into that same skill. Say, for example, you know, you want to be a really good artist. You want to develop patience. You want to be good at like capturing emotions and experiences. You have to be going out there and experiencing things, and you have to be introspective. You have to maybe be quite good at like meditating or having time to reflect, but also doing things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu could be really beneficial, because you get to learn a little bit about that patience and like that mental fortitude when things do get tough. You learn to push past that and overcome that. And there's loads of aspects of your life that you can play into. Like, you could be good at art, but then you could also learn an instrument, and that can inspire you to tap into aspects of creativity that you probably would have never thought about had you not understood the power of creating music yourself and practicing creativity through that other means. you know, what's that book? The Five Rings?
The Book of Five Rings.
The Book of Five Rings, yeah.
When he says
Who's that by?
something like, I'm not sure of his name, but he's like, he's like a samurai in like the 16th century. And yeah, I think it's something Musashi, but I might have got that wrong.
Musashi.
But yeah, he basically says, if you see the way broadly, you'll see it in all things. So to be a good warrior, you have to be a good artist. You have to be a good carpenter. And all of these different things that you do are going to inform your main passion, your main voice. And I've definitely seen that in my own life and people around me.
Yeah. I mean, even with the videos that we're making, like, you know, just to fill people in, we're starting a film production company. It's not officially a film production company yet, like it's basically just us, and then we call it Whole Earth Productions, but we will make it a company soon. And yeah, we're basically just aiming to inspire people to reconnect with nature and what it is to be human, and like to connect with all the different cultures and stories of the people around us, and through that realize that we are all the same. We all have equal value. Like every living thing on this planet, everything that is being experienced, it's all equally important. It just this beautiful balance of whatever nature is doing to create this mad experience we're all sharing. And it's just sort of like our adventure into life and the things that we do. And one of the projects we're doing right now is for our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym that we train at, called Alliance BJJ. And because we train at Alliance and we train Jiu-Jitsu, it really helped us capture what that was all about, because we really understood like what it means to be there. And I think for that reason, like, I think our video would be more powerful than someone who's never done jiu-jitsu before, because we know what it feels like to do that. We know what it feels like to train that. And because we understand that, we know the kinds of emotions that you want to get across. Like, if I had never trained Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like before I met you, I had no idea that there was such a big part of it that is just like pure like brother and sisterhood, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone is such a companion in life. When you go in there, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what you do, how smart you are, how dumb you are, how rich you are, how many crimes you've committed. It doesn't matter. You are all equal when you get on that mat, and you could kill each other for like 5 minutes, and you leave that, you slap hands, and you're like best mates again. And you just all treat each other with so much respect and love, and you have so much appreciation when you see someone like get over an obstacle that they might have had, where maybe they kept getting caught out by the same moves again and again, and then all of a sudden, like one day you just see them overcome that, and they smash someone who used to smash them.
Or you don't spar with someone for like a few weeks. Yeah. Like, this happened to me the other day. Like, this quite new guy, I was sparring with him and giving him a few technique pointers and stuff. And then like 3 weeks later, he was kicking my ass, and I was like, "Geez," I was like, "Man," I was like, "You got a good grip."
Yeah.
And it's a vehicle
You get really
for growth.
proud. You get really proud.
Yeah, it's a vehicle for growth.
Yeah.
And like, I've definitely seen it myself, and like moving your body in a different way and connecting with your body and your mind, and like getting out of your way, and just like jiu-jitsu is one of the only things that I do where I'm just in my mind just completely still,
focused.
There's it's just complete like flow, and it's a beautiful state to be in.
Yeah,
it really is. And there's definitely like a emphasis on this in our culture of like flow, but yeah, I always big up jiu-jitsu to anyone, because I just feel like it's so primal, just to fight and like move in that way with other people, and the way that you connect with them. It's just, you don't really have to do it to understand.
You feel like a little monkey rolling around. It's
literally.
nice. And
I was looking for the painting that you did of the monkeys in the jungle. Then
Oh,
I saw
yeah.
that. I was like, just like that.
similar ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like because we have that understanding and we're living our lives in a way that we have multiple dimensions that make up who we are and what we do with our lives, we are able to understand when we go in there and do that project really what we want to capture. And that's something I really want, like as we progress with this thing, and we go out, we make more films for people and films for ourselves, like really there's such an emphasis on like actually living with them and doing what they do and understanding what it is to be there with that person or that group, and like really get into their shoes. Because I think it's very hard to tell a story unless you walk in someone's shoes for a bit. Like, how can you really understand them and what it's all about for them? Like, you'll portray it through your own lens still, but your lens might be a little bit more calibrated to theirs. So I definitely, there's a big aspect of things which are like all of us like being multi-dimensional, and not just being like I am my job, or like I am I am a painter, nothing else. And I think that's one of the reasons why this channel is changing so much now, because like I was trying really hard to be like a cookie cutter art channel, just because I was told you have to have a niche and you have to stick to that niche. And I just sort of realised that it's just not me. Like, I'm just not a singular dimensional person, and no one is. And I really want to break that mold and like just be like, this is me. I'm a multi-dimensional person. I'm more than just art. Like, if you want to be here, come with my journey. And that journey is more than just making paintings. Like, there's so much more to it that informs that creative process, and that's what makes the creativity so special. And it's the same with Whole Earth Productions. Like, we're going to be doing loads of crazy stuff like traveling and vlogging and sharing things about life that we think are important, valuable.
Loads of variety.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not claiming to know life. I'm just like learning about it. And I'm a passenger and just enjoying the journey. And like, that's a big thing about it, is that we're just, for us, reconnecting with ourselves and with nature and people around us, like trying to bring people in on that journey with us, and just saying like, you know, we don't know the answers, but we're walking this road, come and walk with us.
Figure it out.
Yeah,
completely agree. I'm really excited.
Same.
So I feel like it'll be really cool for us to talk about how we met, because we're basically planning on going traveling again. We're going to start like Southeast Asia and go wherever we're allowed to go with the COVID restrictions, and then probably go to Australia for like a year, maybe a bit more, work, experience like the beauty of Australia, because it just looks like an amazing place to go.
So varied as well.
Yeah, they've got everything there. They've got like deserts, beaches, jungles, forests. Like, they've got parts which are like Canadian
You can
forests.
ski, like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
People just don't ever talk about that side of Australia. They just talk about like the outback and the beaches.
Bondi Beach
And places like that. That like the idea of traveling really comes back to how we met. Like, we met when we were in Bali, and I think we both had a real like deep instilled love for traveling back then. I had always gone solo traveling before I met you, and I tried going traveling with friends a couple of times, and I just never enjoyed it as much. I'm quite wild when I go traveling sometimes. Like, I like to just be spontaneous and be like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to this boat party, or like, fuck it, I'll come climb this mountain with you, or whatever stuff that you just be like, screw it, why not? And I think sometimes when you're with people who are a bit more resistant to letting go and letting loose out of their comfort zone, you feel like you have to appease them all the time. And I never really liked that. And I also just like that when you're not with anyone, you're sort of forced to go out there and be sociable and make friends and connect with people around you. And
that's one of the main things, isn't it? Like, if you're there with your two buddies, you know, it's easy just to hang out, just the three of you,
stick together,
and that just stick together to the death. But yeah, definitely what you said about like, if I don't want to go on that trip. Okay, well, I should probably stay with them, and you end up compromising. But yeah, I was there with my good friend at the time, and we had a great trip before, and I'll let you tell the story of how we met.
Oh, you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, you're a much better storyteller.
Okay. How we met was kind of crazy, to be honest. Should I tell like the actual full story, or like the highlight reel story?
I think probably the highlight reel story.
The highlight reel story.
It's a long
story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went on my own to Bali at on the beginning of August. Was it the beginning of August? No, end of July, something like that. And you had been with your friend Henry at the time. You were in Gili when I arrived, I think, or maybe you had just left to go to Gili.
Something like that, yeah.
And I left back home. I was like seeing somebody very loosely, like it wasn't really anything serious, and he was going to Thailand, and the day that he got back from Thailand for 3 weeks, I was leaving, like the exact same day. Talk about science from the universe, I was leaving for like 7 weeks. And I just kind of said to him, like, look, we don't really know what's going on. I'm going back to Loughborough next year. He was living up in Newcastle. I just said, like, let's just see what happens when we're out there. Like, don't feel like you have to wait for me. And I won't do the same. And we'll just sort of see what happens when we get back.
Yeah, it was a very similar story for me as well.
Yeah.
I was sort of casually seeing someone as well before, but didn't really want to commit too much, because I knew we were going travelling. I feel like there's always like, when you go travelling, there's always like that, you have that idea in your head that maybe I'll meet my soulmate. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to be like, It is funny how like the idea of connecting with someone on like a deep level when you go travelling, it really appeals, especially because you know that there's a high chance that somebody who you're going to meet out there might have like very similar interests to you. They're in the same sort of place, doing the same sorts of things. And
just always preferred the idea of just meeting people in like an organic way. I've never really been a huge fan of like dating sites and stuff. But ironically, this guy who I knew kind of wasn't really right for me, I'd met him on a dating site, and I think that was one of the reasons that we didn't really connect fully, is like we didn't really have that like instant real connection where you have a bit of that like back and forth and all that kind of stuff. It just sort of is like, I swiped for you, I like you, let's meet up, and you feel like you just have to force and manufacture this relationship out of like that interaction online. So I was really happy with my life at this point. Like I was single for like almost 2 years, and really loved my friends. I was really looking after my body, my mental health was great. Like I was really getting into what I was doing at Newcastle. I was like seeing loads of friends here and like doing lots of painting, and life was just good. And I was really convinced that I didn't really want to be in a relationship until maybe my like late 20s. I was really looking forward to just being sort of single and maybe casually dating people until then. And
yeah, I was in a
you were
very
in a similar place.
Yeah, I'd sort of a few years out of my first relationship, and I was really like starting to find out what I like doing and what my values were, and I'd loved traveling since I was a kid. And this was like my big trip, going to Bali, like getting out of like Europe and going somewhere just like completely different. Yeah. And when we got to Bali, it was great. We flew with Malaysian Airlines. Like it was like a few months after, like they lost that plane.
Really? Fucking hell.
Yeah. And we got to Heathrow, and they were like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, but your plane hasn't arrived." And I'm like, "What? Have you lost another one?" And they're like, "No. There's just like
how do you lose
problems."
a plane?
I have no idea. I lost a plane. It's like quite big, isn't it? Like losing your keys is one thing, but like losing your phone maybe. But a plane is like, how do you misplace that?
Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah.
So we were like, fine, all right, we're meant to be going to Bali, but we'll happily wait in Heathrow for another day.
Oh my god, day.
So we just stayed in like in a hotel in Hounslow, in Heathrow, which isn't like the nicest area ever.
Yeah, we were lucky that you were safe there.
And yeah, flew to Bali and stopped in Kuala Lumpur. And that was really nice. It was only for like a day though, so I'd like to go back to Malaysia at some point.
Me too.
Got to Bali, and we were doing like a week surfing and yoga
in Canggu.
Retreat in Canggu. Yeah, and place was like a paradise. Honestly, it's like these beautiful gardens, like a swimming pool. And we were staying in these different huts. We were just like surfing and having fun and doing yoga for a week, and it was amazing. And I just felt like everything was flowing, and I was in a really good place. And we're then like, okay, cool. Now we've done this week. Now where we're gonna go? It was like, we've got to go to Gili Islands because we'd heard about them from so many people. Diving was amazing. At that point, I'd done my advanced PADI diving course. And I was like, yeah, sick, like, gonna do some proper diving, might see some turtles, weren't really excited for it. And
this is in 2018
This is in 2018, yeah. Flew to Lombok, and just went straight through on a little boat. We went to Gili Tea, and spent the day there. It was a great day. We had a great time, and we spent the night there. And we sort of recovered for a day, and we watched like the UFC. It was like a big card, so like it was like our mobile data was like limited, so we were like sat there waiting for it to buffer for ages, sitting in this like really nice like restaurant, just waiting for that. And used to love the UFC back then. And the next day we were gonna go do some mushroom shakes. In the afternoon, but in the morning we're going to go diving. It was going to be an amazing day. And I'll leave it there for now.
You're going to leave it there?
I'll leave it there.
God,
for now.
suspense.
I'll let you talk about your
I feel
trip.
that's quite a good place to. Yeah, okay. My trip up to that point was only like 3 days. I literally had just flown to Bali, and I went to. I did a lot of research into Bali, but I thought I'd start for some reason in Seminyak. Do you want water?
Yeah, please. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I thought for some reason I'd start in Seminyak, which, you know, it was fun, I have to admit. Went partying for like 3 days in a row, met loads of cool people at my hostel, and it was just nice because, you know, whenever you go solo traveling, there's always like the first couple of days you're just kind of like, oh God, I just need to make some social connections so I don't feel as sort of, I don't know, itching for social interaction, human contact, that kind of thing. It's just nice to have that. And on the third day, we were getting ready to go out, and the hostel we were at was really crazy. Like, they had like this huge bar, and they were selling like NOS balloons and stuff. They were honestly like
Was
massive.
it called Capsule?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was.
NOS Capsule.
Yeah, they just had like NOS balloons, and like the alcohol was definitely like not good alcohol. Like, it was definitely like fake. And we had this huge long table. It was like one of those like benches that has like the seats on either side, and it went all the way down the room, really big. And me and the people that I was sort of hanging with at the time, we were playing that game where you put all your drinks, a bit of your drink into this cup, you put a pile of cards on top, and then every person needs to try and take a card off gently, and like if you drop the whole pile, you have to drink everything. And all of a sudden, like, it's like 10 o'clock at night, I'm quite drunk at this point, and all of a sudden you just start hearing this like jumping sound. I was like, who the fuck is jumping on the table? And all the cards fell down. I was like, fuck's sake, someone's ruining my game. And I looked down the table and there was no one jumping on the table. And I was like, it's weird. And then I looked up, I looked around, and the whole building was shaking. I was like, holy shit, earthquake. I've never been in an earthquake before. The weather in England is really mild in all ways. Like, it's never too hot, it's never too cold, it's never too windy, it's never too rainy. Like, the snow is only like on the ground for maybe an hour. It's just very mild here. Like, we really aren't prepared for any kind of natural disasters at all. So I was just like, shit. I just like ran out of the building. Everyone ran with us, and we were like, earthquake!
What the fuck do I do?
Yeah, like the whole building shaking, like things are falling down from the ceiling and stuff, and it was just really scary. And then we get into this corridor bit in like, well, it's like the street, but it's like a little tiny corridor because it's so small, all these big buildings around us. And I looked up and I just noticed there's loads of like masts with like electrical wires just kind of hanging loose outside. Yeah, and I was like, well, it's probably worse in here. Like, I'm going to get electrocuted.
Well.
Yeah, the electrical work there is not good. There's no insulation, I swear. And yeah, the shaking stuff, it was only like maybe a minute or two, but it was terrifying. And then we all went back in, and everyone just kind of sobered up because they were just so shocked by how big it was. And you know, we found out at the time that it was a 7.8 Richter scale earthquake. It's like really high up on the Richter scale. I think they got up to like 9. So that's like pretty devastating.
It's intense, yeah.
And it happened over in Lombok, and you know, Seminyaks's on the other side of, like, Lombok's an island off the coast of the east of Bali, and Seminyaks's kind of on the west. So it wasn't even really close, but it still really shook the place.
Yeah, so Lombok is where we originally got our flight to Lombok, and we were just literally next door.
Yeah.
So similar situation as you. Like, I'd never been in an earthquake ever. I had no idea. So I'm getting ready to go on a night out. I'm well excited. Going to get some food. Doing my shoelaces up. And it's just like the fucking room is shaking.
Yours was so much worse.
I stupidly kind of just sort of looked up at the air conditioning unit, and I was like, that's a bit shit, isn't it? I was like, I need to get a new one of those. My friend runs out, doesn't tell me anything, doesn't say for me to run. I'm there stupidly. The lights go out, and I'm like, shit, I'm scrambling around, and then like my photojournalism brain comes on, I'm like, where's my camera? I'm hearing people screaming, I'm like, what the fuck? So I find my camera in this building, I'm running down the corridor, and like when you're running down the corridor, the earth is moving underneath you. So you have a long corridor, and you have different rooms, sort of every metre or so. So you're running down the straight corridor, the earth moves, and you go bang into one of the...
You like slip into one of the rooms.
One of the rooms, yeah. And we ran out, and everyone's like, earthquake. And like, my mate was like, where were you? What were you doing? And I was like, I didn't know what was going on. Like, it was dark.
You don't clock straight away that it's happening. At first, you're just kind of like, what's going on? It's so loud.
Literally. And we were like, what the fuck do we do? Like, we had nothing. And we were like, all right, we need to go somewhere, I guess. We can't stay in the building because, like, at this point, a lot of the buildings have come down. Like, a lot
fully
of us,
collapsed,
there was full destruction, like, all around us. So I was like, right, let's get some stuff. and we just like grabbed my little like day bag, camera, batteries,
Not the passports though.
not the passports or the money or anything like that. Just like my little GoPro. That's basically all I had, and I don't know what else. And like put our shoes on and that, and then we just headed out, and we were waiting in this sort of field for ages, and like there's people that are injured. Like this girl had been caught in this like barbed wire fence, and like had to try and like help her get off and stuff, and like nobody knows what the fuck's going on. And like it was really sad, and like.
And it's at 10 o'clock at night as well. It's like pitch black.
It's pitch black at night time, and they have a mosque there, and you can. They're sort of a few times a day they play like some sort of music, yeah, or like a attention to people to do their prayers. The whole mosque had come down.
Wow.
And like there's this big great concrete ball, and it's just in the middle, and like we're trying to help people like get out, but there's so many people there trying to help that like you're just crowding it, and like you're not helping anyone. Like there's nothing you could do really. Like there's too many people trying to help. There's like too many cooks. So like, okay, right, maybe we'll try and get somewhere else, and then we just hear tsunami, and we're like, fuck,
yeah, you need
tsunami,
to get to high ground.
and we were like, shit, we need to get to high ground. So we're in this field, and we just hear these locals, and like there's no cars or anything on the island, so you just see like horse and cart, and like just see all these horses just running up this hill. And I'm like, fuck, right, we'll follow the locals. Like, best intuition we could have had.
Yeah,
at that
definitely,
point.
always follow the locals.
So
they know what's going on.
This is a really long story. I'm going to boil it down. But we're basically on the top of this hill, and people were saying about like, you know, if there's a tsunami, it's going to come straight over here, and we're fucked basically. And the likelihood of that happening after a big earthquake was quite high. That the locals thought. So I was like, shit. If something happens, I need to call my mum and my dad and my family and like tell them that I love them, and like, regardless of what happens. So I phoned my mum, and like
You actually got through?
yeah,
Wow,
got through.
that's so lucky.
And
That's why she called the British Embassy or something.
yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And so is my dad, and I'm very lucky I've got them. But they're very protective, and like, you can imagine if your kid phones you and be like, I'm really like, this has happened, there's been an earthquake, and if there's a tsunami, I just want you to know that I love you and thank you for everything you've done. She must have been like, fuck, I'm so worried. She's probably just
she
sat
must
there
have
in
had a
front
heart
of the
attack, bless
TV,
her.
like, I'm like, I've got to save my phone battery, so I can't call you for a bit. So we're waiting out there for a while, and like there's people just with no shoes on because people just ran out, and like, no one's got any water. So we go to this restaurant, we've got loads of bottles of water, we came up, we've given out to
People were like raiding stuff, I heard from throughout the whole trip, like until I met you, I was hearing from loads of people who had been there that like they were like raiding stuff, and people have just like breaking into shops to get like dried packed food and stuff because there wasn't anything else to eat. And
yeah, it was like that. So like the first night we basically met these people that were running the hostel that we were meant to be in the next day, and they said there's this like resort that we can go to, and it's on the south side of the island, I think. And if we go there, there's a tsunami. It won't go over us. We're like, sweet, no death by water.
yeah, sounds great.
Let's go.
No drowning.
Let's go now. So we had a little pack of people, and then we were like walking through all this destruction, and it was crazy. Like one girl like sort of fell where a building had come down. It had like destroyed this concrete wall, and like this concrete wall and this concrete sort of like basically where the floor was underneath there was a basement. She'd basically fallen in.
Wow.
So she'd fallen in. She's like that, and like my mate, he grabbed her bag.
Wow.
He was like luckily behind her,
That's so
grabbed her
lucky.
bag and just pulled her back up. Have you seen The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like that in the sense that like we had our little tribe, and then there was
And these were all people from your hostel?
the hostel we're about to go to. We just met them like just then on the top of the hill, and yeah, we met this other group of people, and they're sort of like, okay, this is sort of like the law of the land. This is like our little bit. So these are the rules. If you want to stay here, then you can. It's like cool. So we like pulled up a little like mattress from the sunbed, like a duvet, and just slept under the stars for the night. And
Sounds
to be
quite
honest,
nice,
it was really beautiful amongst the chaos. And obviously, you know, my house wasn't there. I didn't live there. My family weren't in Lombok, so I had a lot of sympathy for these people, but it wasn't a me problem, you know. Like, they had their lives literally like destroyed, and I'm just a visitor there. You know, I've got a home and a family.
Yeah,
and
you knew they were all
away.
safe and stuff.
Yeah,
So.
so for me, it wasn't bad at all. Like, for them, they really met
Yeah,
the
they wanted
wrath
to
of
leave,
that
didn't they?
natural disaster.
Yeah.
So like the next day, the friends we made, they headed to their hostel and we went with them, and then we're going to go to ours after. And you just have people like trying to get on these boats as soon as they can, massively overloading the boats, like throwing people's luggage off so more people can get on. And like, I can really see why, because the earthquake was in Lombok and these people had no idea what their families were like. They might have had a family under rubble, you never know. And they're just like about a mile away from
You just
like,
can't
in the
get to
water.
them.
And they couldn't get to them, no. So like, me and my friend were just like, you know what, we're just gonna stay here as long as we can, let the locals get off on the boats, because it was like local, like travellers like trying to get off ASAP and just waiting at the beach. So you know, we'll just get some food, get some water, and we'll just stay here. So
Bet you ate a lot of Oreos.
fuck yeah, a lot of Oreos. Haven't eaten Oreos since. But yeah, it's a long story. But basically, we went to their hostel and we came to ours, and the door was completely shut, completely locked, and my friend's bag was outside with a note saying that, you know, I'm sorry we've had to clear your room out. Here's all your stuff here. So he's got some stuff in his bag. My bag's nowhere to be seen. No passports, no money, no cameras.
Classic.
Nothing. Just some of his clothes. All my stuff's just fucking gone somewhere. So we headed to the beach, and like, our hostel seems to be the only hostel where the people that worked there didn't have uniform. We'd only been there for one day, so didn't know what anyone looked like. So just sort of like hopelessly looking around for people, couldn't find anyone. And we came back to the hostel that we were staying at, and the main door was unlocked. So I went into my room. I still had the room key, and I had a look in our room. It just looked like someone just frantically packed stuff into a bag and left it. And like, there was no valuables in there or anything. Didn't have our passports, our money. So we like, went back to the beach and we were like, fuck, we've got nothing. Literally, like, to get off this island, we're gonna have to go to Jakarta to get a new passport. We have to fly from Lombok to Jakarta, which we couldn't do because we didn't have a passport. And we had no money, so we're fucked. What are we gonna do? We ended up looking for ages, couldn't find anyone. So we came back, grabbed some stuff, like some sun cream and some vest, put it in my little backpack, and we were just alright, let's go. So I just had one last check around the room. I looked around, bang, 2 passports there. I'm like, sweet.
Really lucky.
Sweet. Got some passports, got a little bit of money, probably like £50 equivalent or something. So I was like,
It goes
cool,
a long way
man.
in Bali, to be
It goes a
fair.
long way, yeah. And I was like, it's cool now. Like, we can get places. Like, I don't need all the other stuff. The other stuff's all, it can just,
It's not
whatever.
important.
Yeah, it's not important. It's just material stuff. And we spent the next 3 days like sort of finding food, and people were being really kind to us and like giving us food. And then we sort of stayed in this hostel, but like, in an outdoor bit, and like there'll be aftershocks all the time, and we were like, we're not staying indoors in case the building comes down.
Yeah, it's definitely a wise decision.
So I remember one night we were just like asleep on these bean bags out by the pool, and there's like this courtyard area, and there's nothing above you. So you hear an aftershock, wake up, grab your bag, and like, fuck, let's go, run.
It's like shell shock.
Yeah, literally like shell shock. I remember waking up, I just hear like crunching like behind me, just like sounded like an earthquake. I jump up, and some dude with his suitcase, he's like, sorry man, just my suitcase. So I was like, okay, fucking hell, calm down a bit. A long story short, we basically stayed there on the island for 3 days, and then the Indonesian Navy came and got us. And yeah, we thought, where are we going to go now? We said, alright, let's go to Canggu. We had a great time there, and stayed in this really shit hostel for a night, and then we're like, right, we'll have a bit of luxury, got some nice food, and then yeah, went back to Canggu. So I'll let you carry on from there.
Yeah, nice. That sounds good. I actually never planned to go to Canggu when I went. I'd never heard of Canggu before. I planned my trip for Bali. It was really like mostly going to be obviously like Gili tea and a bit of Seminyak, going to Ubud, all those kinds of places, and then spending a lot of time like the north of the island where there's not as much of like a tourist presence. It's more of like actual Bali. I didn't realise that most of that part of the island was completely cut off because the volcano was like potentially going to erupt at any point. So my plan was in all sorts of ways completely changed. And after the earthquake, we all went back into the hostel on the same night, and everyone was panicking. Loads of people were talking about it, and you know, as people do, people love making things into like such a big deal. And there's always people who try and act like they know more than they know.
Classic.
Yeah, and there were like these guys just saying like, oh well, you know, it's safer in this place, it's safer in that place, like saying that, you know, because there's been one earthquake, there's probably going to be way more. And then other people were saying like, oh, because there's been one, it's less likely there's going to be another one. And
it's all bullshit, right?
They just don't know. No one knows.
It's so funny. We had that on.
People are all just like doing balloons and stuff, and like, and just sort of, I guess, trying to get over the shock of what was happening. And I went upstairs and I called my dad. And I was like, there's been an earthquake. He just laughed. He was like, have fun. I'm like, thanks, Dad. It's the difference between our parents. He was like, you'll be fine. I was like, great, cheers. Yeah, I basically, that night, I booked a flight to go to Thailand. I was basically like, I'm not going to stick around in case there is another earthquake and I get caught in a tsunami. People were saying that like the Gili Islands would have been hit and they'd probably be closed, and Gili's was going to be where I was going to spend like 2 weeks of my trip near the end. And yeah, I just decided I'm going to leave and try and come back to Bali another year when there's not so much stuff going on. And I booked a flight to go about 5 or 6 days after my third day. I was going to depart and go to Thailand for like 3 weeks and then come back to Bali for another week, go to Gili if it was open at that point, and then fly home. And I then was like talking to people in the hostel, and they were saying that we were going to go to Canggu. And I was like, where the hell is Canggu? And they said it's really nice, like surfer kind of area, and it's on the complete opposite side of the island to Lombok. So if there's another earthquake, it's very unlikely that there would be like tsunamis and stuff because it would be coming from the opposite side of the island. So I was like, okay, cool, that sounds fun. I like beaches. I'd like to learn how to surf. I didn't learn how to surf, but it sounded good. And I went to Canggu on like the second day in Canggu. I went to this night out with a bunch of my hostel friends that I just met to Pretty Poison, which is like this really cool club that has like a huge skating bowl in the back, and there's just loads of people, honestly, hundreds of people crowding around in the back outside. There's like a club bit, and you go outside and there's just like benches and just this huge skate bowl, huge like peanut shaped skate bowl, and there's loads of people just dropping in with their skateboards, like drunk or high or sober, like combination of all, and just like doing tricks and stuff, which is a really cool place. Definitely looking forward to going back there again. And even though I was seeing that guy back home, I had already slept with someone else, and I was sort of like, I'm just going to enjoy being a free human being and enjoy my life, and not going to worry so much about what's going to happen when I get home.
Yeah, it's not because your boyfriend, is it?
No, yeah, we were just seeing each other, and we both made it very clear that we were just going to like keep it chill until we got back. And you know, apparently he waited for me, which made me feel way worse about what happens next. But you know, I didn't know that at the time, and I went through the club and I caught eyes with this guy called Johnny. And long story short, I hooked up with Johnny for like 3 days. And after that, I just kind of was like, this guy's not really on my level. Like, he just talked about himself a lot and wasn't really on my vibe. So I thought, okay, it's been fun, but let's go for dinner, and I'm gonna go to Ubud tomorrow. And he was kind of saying, oh yeah, I'll come and join you and all that kind of stuff. And I think he liked me a bit more than I liked him. So I was kind of trying to give it like a bit of like a subtle hint that I'm just gonna go out on my own now. And we went for like dinner at this fish restaurant back when I used to eat fish on Echo Beach, and we were about to sit down at this table. It's like one of those big benches, and he just stood up again and was like, oh my god, what are you guys doing here? And all of his hostel friends who were at his hostel before we met came and sat at the table, and you sat next to me. And I was instantly like, shit, I've chosen the wrong guy here. But also, like, everything happens for a reason. And
yeah, of course.
If I hadn't have got with him, I probably would have never met you. So everything does happen for a reason.
That's the thing. Me and Henry and him and Leo were meant to go out on that night out that you guys met.
Yeah.
And Henry fell off his motorbike and like injured his leg quite badly. So it was like maybe we weren't meant to meet that night. We could have actually, maybe we were supposed to meet that night, but then something happened and it got in the way, and then Johnny was there as like a way of reconnecting that. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, we went for we were going to just go for dinner and then go back to the villa, and I was going to say goodbye to him in the morning. And instead we went for a spontaneous night out with you guys, and I avoided you like the plague. Even when we were at the restaurant, I found you so attractive, and I was just kind of like, I can't be that girl who gets with the guy's friend. Like, just can't be that girl.
I was the same, so I was just like, right, she's taken. I was like,
yeah.
It was like gutted,
it was off limits. It was off limits.
I was like, I'm a respectful
and
dude.
you had there was a girl who was with you as well. The girl with brown hair. She was really pretty. I told myself, yeah, you guys were getting together. Do you know the one I meant? She was like really, really tan. She had long brown hair, and I just kind of assumed. I just told myself like, yeah, they're already together. It's fine. So I just give myself loads of excuses, and I'm severely allergic to nuts. So you put like this peanut sauce on your fish, and I was like, oh, he likes nuts. Nah, he's definitely not the right guy for me. Guys who eat nuts are like so not my vibe. Just like any excuse in my head. Yeah, and the night out was good, and we had a lot of fun, and I kind of avoided you a lot when we were dancing and stuff. I tried really hard to just make sure I danced with Johnny, so I didn't like make the wrong impression. And I took Henry's Instagram at the end, because you guys mentioned that you were going to Ubud as well. What a chance! You were going to Ubud like 2 days after I was going.
Yeah.
And you had a van that you were renting. So I was like, oh great, could I get a ride back to Canggu in your van after we've both been in Ubud? And Henry was like, yeah, sweet, sounds good. Looking back on it now, Henry probably thought I was hitting on him, but I actually wasn't interested at all. So I went to Ubud like the next day, say goodbye to Johnny, and I actually pretended that I had barley belly because he was going to come and meet me out there, and I told him I was really sick and he shouldn't come. And then there was like this free barbecue on the Sunday at the hostel, so I said to you guys, you should come to my hostel. It was your first day there, and you should come join me and a bunch of people that I've met here. We could go for a night out and just be nice to see you all. And then we went for this spontaneous night out, and the first place we went to was CP Lounge, and there was a band playing, and I don't know, for anyone who's watching who knows that I love singing, I used to sing in Newcastle, and like I had just come out of being in Newcastle and doing like gigs and stuff, and like singing all the time with my guitarist Pete, and I just love being on stage and singing and performing in that way. Like, it's so nice to express myself with music, and every time I see a band I just want to go up there and sing. And even when I first got to Ubud, there was a band on my first night there in the hostel, and I just was like, can I sing a couple songs? And they just played some music for me, and I just sang, and it was so fun.
I know how it goes though, when you like, say for instance, I'll like see a guitar and I'll like want to instantly play it.
Yeah.
Then there's also like that paradox in my mind. It's like, I'm not always that dickhead that gets the guitar out.
Honestly, I stopped caring, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Bali, I just really overcame the fear of like getting my ukulele out and just playing. I was just like, I'm just gonna sit and play, and I don't care if nobody likes it or if everyone likes it. This is just something I feel like I need to do for me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it should be about.
Yeah, like dancing. And yeah, so I went over to the band and I said, do you guys know these chords? Like, would you be up for doing these 3 or 2 songs with me? And they were like, yeah, sure, come and meet us in our break. We'll chat for like 10 minutes. You can tell us what we need to do. And I was like, yes, Balinese people are so nice.
Yeah,
they love you. They love you getting up and joining them. And I went back to you and Henry and a bunch of other people who were with us. They're all a blank in my mind. Like, I can't really remember anyone else apart from you, Henry, and Bella, to be honest. And obviously like Sags and
Wow.
And Akash.
These dudes,
the guys that they met, they brought them along.
In the hostel. We brought them with us. They were like
They were like your crew,
stowaway friends. Yeah.
But yeah, they were there, and I kind of just went up to you guys saying like, I'm gonna sing in like 10 minutes, and you were kind of like, all right then. It was like,
I had no idea. She was like, should I go up and sing? I was like, yeah, go up and sing. Like, I had no idea you'd be really good.
I just like X Factor.
I just thought, it would be like, my nan loves the fact that I sing, so I sing, and then you're like, that was well bad. So I was like, all right, either way, show I'll be really good at singing, I'll be really funny.
Yeah.
So I was like, go for it, yeah.
And then I like came and grabbed you guys before I went up, and you all came to like the little dance floor bit. And
I wasn't there for that though.
Yeah.
I actually went to the toilet.
Oh really?
And then I wasn't there, and then I just came back, and I was like this now. I was like, wow, she's got a nice voice. I was like, I swear it was some dudes playing guitar earlier. I saw it was you, and I was like, wow. I was like, that girl can sing. I was like,
thanks, thank you very much. Yeah, it was really fun. And then after that, I don't know, I felt like it's always like after you perform, I just feel like you have such an adrenaline rush that like you become a bit more like confident to talk to people and stuff, because you've kind of been really vulnerable and you've put yourself out there already, and people have accepted it. And so I think we just talked a lot more after that. We had like a dance with all of our mates, and me and you were like winding up this girl who was being really mean to one of our friends, and just she seemed really easy to wind up. So I think we just got like we got on our head that it'd be quite funny.
A bit of banter.
Yeah, we're having a bit of banter with her. She didn't enjoy it very much, but yeah, it is what it is. It was part of the bonding experience. And yeah, we played some pool, and we just started talking. Like we all went back to this big table. There were like 20 of us. There's quite a lot of people out with us. We just sat at this table, and I told you about like my DMT trip, and you told me about like a bunch of stuff that you had been sort of realizing in your life. And I think I very quickly felt like you were very mature for your age, even though you were like a year and a half younger than me. I was like, wow, this guy's way more mature than like the 30-year-old guy that I'm dating back in Newcastle. Like you were already talking to me about, you know, making big decisions in your life, and we both kind of agreed that we would rather like go home unsatisfied than go home with someone who's not good enough. And I really liked that you resonated on that kind of level. And I was in a place in my life where I was just going to communicate anything that I was feeling and thinking, and I didn't really care if you didn't like me after that. I didn't really care because I knew my worth, and I think you were also in a very similar place, and I found that really attractive. And yeah, we went back after the night out. We were walking down this road, and I thought at this point that like I liked you, and I thought you liked me as well. And we go into this shop to get like some more beers and stuff before we go back to my hostel. And you're looking at like ice creams and shit, and you picked one up that looked like it had nuts in it. And
Feast. I loved that
and
ice cream.
yeah.
That was my all-time
And I was
favourite.
like, oh, the first time I kissed a boy when I was 14, I had like an allergic reaction because he ate peanuts before he kissed me. And you were like, oh, really? And then you just bought the ice cream that had nuts in it. And I was like, well, that's it.
Completely clueless.
He's not interested. That's cool. I'm maybe just reading the situation wrong. I thought like maybe you're really good friends with Johnny. You don't want to step on his toes or whatever. So I took the message as like, you're not interested. So then I kind of walked away from you for the rest of the walk back to the hostel. And then we got back to the hostel and like lay down on this astroturfy bit next to the pool. And it was a really starry night. And we just like, me and you both lay down on the grass. Everyone else sat up. We chatted shit for a little bit. And then we had a little bit of a quiet moment. And I just went like, look at the stars. Look how they shine for you. And started singing Yellow in like this really high-pitched chipmunk accent. And you laughed so much.
Yeah,
and you found it so
jokes.
funny. And then you started joining in with me, and like no one else found it funny. It was just us. It was really nice. And slowly, like throughout the night, everyone started fucking off. We were having our own little conversation for ages. And before I knew it, like Henry left. I think he realised he wasn't going to get with Bella that night, so he left. And
He was ill, yeah.
He was ill, yeah. He just come off his bike and stuff as well. So
Yeah,
like
he was fucked.
he
bless
wasn't
him.
in a good place,
Yeah.
bless him. So he left, and it was just kind of me and you. And at this point, my head was like on your chest. It was clear that we both liked each other. But I couldn't kiss you because you had eaten nuts. So it was.
And I had no idea about like the nuts thing. I just didn't clock because I'd never met anyone that was allergic to nuts, or it had never been a problem. I remember I would eat like 150 grams of cashew nuts a day.
It's
Like it was
mental.
like a staple
Thank
of
you
my
for giving
diet.
nuts up for me. I really appreciate that.
That's alright.
That's a true love commitment thing right there.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends who have nut allergies, and their partners haven't given up eating nuts for them. So thank you for doing
It's
that.
too risky.
It's so
Fucking
risky.
kill you one day. Just be like,
I've had some bad experiences.
I'll be stoned or something, just forget and just like kiss you, and then you be like choking. I'll be like, this is the worst
Worst
high ever.
It's the worst trip.
She's dying.
Anyway, so we're like sat there under the stars, and everyone's left, and I really want to kiss you. You probably want to kiss me as well. And I was just kind of like, so do you want to brush your teeth? And you were like, yeah, all right. And yeah, we went and brushed our teeth and like got ready for bed and stuff. And then we got into bed and like we slept together that night. It was really, really good. And then the next day we just like chatting in the morning. And I think that's when I sort of knew there was something different about you, because we didn't just like sleep together and then the next day you were like gunning to leave, or I was gunning to leave or get you out of there. Like we just chatted. I like told you about my granddad and like the crazy story of how he met my step gran, and just funny things about my family and you told me funny stuff about your family as well. Like you and your dad going to Jamaica and getting drunk on the balcony and stuff. And it was just really nice. And then you said, do you want to come to the Monkey Forest with me and Henry later? And I was like, yeah, sounds great. So me and my hostel mate, Bella, and like you and Henry, we all went out to the Monkey Forest and had like a bit of a day out there. Did Bella come in the end? Oh no, she didn't.
Nah.
She was going to come, but she didn't for some reason.
Yeah.
But that was really nice. And I feel like from that day on, we were kind of inseparable for like 4 days. Like we would literally like any excuse to like sleep in the same bed, have cuddles. Like we were just like attached. It was really nice. And it wasn't in like a needy way. It was just kind of like, I just had so much that I wanted to learn about you, and you had so much you wanted to learn about me.
It just instantly felt right.
Yeah, it did. But I had booked a flight to Thailand, and I was leaving in like 4 days after we officially got together. I had like 4 days until my flight. So we went back to Canggu in the van, and we went for like nights out and stuff. We went for this big night out on my last night before I left, and we got back at like 1:30 in the morning. My flight was at like 7 or 8 in the morning, and then we woke up at 6 a.m. Like, our poor brains must have been so tired. We were drunk still probably, and yeah, you helped me like get all my stuff in the cab, gave me a big hug, and you were like, I really want to see you again in the UK. I was like, I want to see you too. And we were really sure that we were definitely going to see each other again.
Yeah, I was sure.
It was, there was strong feelings there already, and we were kind of like both sort of like, where the fuck did you come from? I wanted to be single, and I've just got this mad feeling that I haven't had for anyone before. I went all the way to Denpasar airport, and I got ready to check my bags in. I was about to like go to a little check-in counter and put all my stuff on the plane, and then I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Everything I want is here. Like, why am I going to Thailand? So I called my uncle's missus at the time. He met her. I actually messaged her on the family chat that I had with my uncle, my aunt, my step-gran, my uncle's missus, and my aunt's husband. I think that was everyone that was on there. I think my brother was in there as well. And I was like, anyone up? Like, need some advice? And
It was like 3
yeah. And to Tem, my uncle's now wife, messaged back saying, I'm up, give me a call. So I called her and I was like, is it crazy to be in love with someone after 4 days and miss a flight for somebody? And she was like, baby, just do whatever feels right. And I was like, fuck it. So I took my bag and I went back in a cab. I went all the way back to Canggu, and I just like came back, and you were like in full sleep mode, eye mask on, like snoring, gum shielding, earplugs in.
Snoring gum shield, because honestly I snore so badly, like a hog. So I have this gum shield that makes you have this underbite, so I'm literally like this, sleeping like this, eye mask on, earplugs in, and it makes you have an underbite, so
You were in like full sleep mode. You didn't even know I was there. I tried to like wake you up, and I was like, no, he's not waking up. So I went like crawled into the bed with you, and I just started spooning you, and then you woke up like 4 hours later or something, and then you literally pinched yourself, and you were like, I put you in a taxi. And I was like, yeah, I came back for you. And you were like, oh my God. And then we went to Uluwatu together, and I had a little scuba diving incident. And after that, like, you were just so supportive. It was so nice. Like, I think, was it after that or before that I got really sick?
we went to Uluwatu and you got sick.
Was I sick
first?
first?
And we went to Nusa.
That was it.
Lemon.
I got really sick. No, I think, yeah, I got really, really sick. And you actually sacrificed going out with everyone to stay with me, which was really nice, because we had just met, and you sacrificed like going to this really bougie club all day with everybody. And then you got sick, and I did the same for you. And then, we went and like, I was really ill, and you like helped me get my visa extension and stuff, because my visa was going to run out. And then we went scuba diving. I had like a little scuba diving accident. And then afterwards, like, you were just like consoling me afterwards. And like, I just knew I loved you. It was mad. Like, I'd never felt so comfortable to say I love you to anyone before. Like, all the other times I said I love you to someone, I always felt like I was just saying it because I felt like I should, rather than because it actually was how I felt. And with you, like, I felt like if I didn't say it in that moment, I would have been, I don't know, denying myself something. So I said it, and you said it back instantly, and it was just like, and you wanted to tell me
for days. And it was just the perfect moment, and we just come out of the shower, and like, it was an emotional time, and I was like, I really love you too.
Yeah, it was mad.
Yeah.
Then we spent 2 weeks together, and then you left. I was there for a month, and then we came back to the UK. We met up, and it was like nothing had changed. It was exactly the same. Went for like a night out together, and got really like smashed and high and all sorts, and just had a great time. And then came back to my dad's. You met my dad. I've never introduced my dad to anyone so fast. But you met my dad like the first night that we met in the UK. And he gave you a glass of whiskey, and like, and that's when I knew that he really liked you. Like, from the first impression, like, you shook his hand, like, you did all the right stuff, and like, he really respected you straight away. And he poured you a glass of whiskey, and I was like, my dad has never poured a drink for any man that I've ever. Well, I've only introduced to 3, but like,
I thought I could drink at the time. I drink this whiskey. I was like, I thought that had coke in it. I was like, neat.
He's a neat whiskey drinker.
Yeah, he likes.
He's like neat with a splash of coke just to give it a bit of flavour.
Yeah, just a bit of bubble.
Yeah, the French Italians, they know how to drink.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the rest is kind of history. It's been like 3 years, and it's been very easy, to be honest. Like, I think obviously every relationship has its challenges, and nobody is perfect, but I do feel like the biggest problems in our relationship are very minor problems, you know, and we always work through them. We have like always had really good communication from the start.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Is like, and I always say it to my friends, is like, you're always going to come up against rocks on the road and like troubles and problems, but like if you can just communicate openly, you can get through anything. You really can, if you're happy to just drop your ego and just chat about it at a good time for both of you. And that's something I really learned from you, because I'd never had that openness before. And like now it's just something that I do without thinking about it. Just like can honestly tell people about how I'm feeling and be vulnerable, and before it just wasn't the
Yeah,
cards
you need
for
to
me.
practice it. You need,
Yeah.
and this is something that I think a lot of men struggle with as well. Like being able to be practiced in opening up about how you feel without feeling like ashamed or like it makes you weaker or whatever. It's very difficult, because I think you don't really ever learn how to practice that when you're younger, because of there's a lot of like social constructs that do sort of put men in this kind of level where you're not really super emotional, and you should keep your cards close to your chest, or being emotional is complicated and all that kind of stuff.
Don't cry, you got to be a
Don't
man,
cry.
you got to be strong, you got to be this, you got to be that. And like, I was just
You just never learn how to do it.
so out of tune from my emotions, from just bottling stuff up and not wanting to face them. But yeah, it just takes a time of like unwinding and unlearning and realizing that stuff that kept me safe at one point, I didn't need it anymore.
I do think that there was definitely like an element of you having grown up with like your mum and your sister being very close with you that made you a bit more open to understanding like female emotions though, and just like emotions and like talking about emotions, because like honestly the guy that I was dating when I met you, we both had to end it with the people we were sort of seeing back home, but like he was almost 30 and he couldn't talk about his emotions in person. Like he had to text everything he was feeling, because the idea of talking about how he felt face to face was so terribly scary for him. He didn't know how to understand his own emotions, and even though maybe there might be points where, you know, you've had to learn how to interpret how you're feeling and communicate that and like translate it into words and, you know, trigger points and all that kind of stuff, I do think that you had like a very good understanding of other people's emotions from the beginning. Like, and I think you've definitely learnt that from having that relationship with your sister and with your mum, where they really share stuff with you, and maybe you're good at listening, but you weren't as good at sharing yourself. But you definitely were good at like understanding how other people are feeling. It's just
definitely.
maybe yourself
I've
you
been
needed
very
to learn
lucky.
a bit.
I've always had unconditional love and support from my parents and from my family, and growing up with a sister is awesome. For that, because like, you know, she seemed to always. So there's like a year and a half between us. I'm older than her, but emotionally, we always seem to develop at the same time. Like she's ahead of her age, so like we were always in a similar place, which was really nice, because like you would get the girl's perspective and the boy's perspective on stuff, and like when we've really started to connect more over the last few years, and like now we're so close. Like, you know,
one of your best friends, right?
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, me and Lil are so close. And it's really nice. I'm really grateful for that. And she'll be phoning me. She'll be like, oh, I'm going through this at the moment. I'm like, me too. And like, then we'll like talk about it and like what we're going through.
You guys are more like twins than like older and younger. It's the same with me and my brother. Like I think, obviously, we grew up in a bit more of a male orientated environment, because it was me, my brother, and my dad, and then. Like, I think my uncle was always a big role model for him growing up. Like, he really aspired to be like my uncle, because he was fun and, you know, confident, and he really cared about people and all that kind of stuff. And there were definitely aspects of, like, my dad that he aspired to. But I do think that for a long time, me and him were kind of just in it together. And because we were the same sort of age, like, whenever I'd stop doing something, he'd stop doing it. So even though he was 2 years younger than me, he grew up at the same speed as well. And he's honestly so empathetic towards women and how they feel, and we have such a close relationship, and the way that he treats other people and, you know, respects people equally, like men or women. I think having that close connection with a female or a male, like someone in the opposite sex from a very young age, I think you learn to empathize with them a lot more. I think a lot of our cultural conditioning tries to make us feel very separate. Like girls go on girls' nights and they hang out with the girls, and boys go on boys' nights, hang out with the boys, and like there's like this kind of sometimes pressure to be separate, I think, and to view each other as like, you know, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, like we're so different and we just can't get along unless it's for like some kind of like, you know, romantic or sexual relationship. And I think it's really nice when you have those close connections with family members from a young age, like you do just kind of see that the opposite sex is just like, they're just other humans just like you, and maybe their minds might work a little bit differently in some ways, but overall, like, you are the same. And I think particularly from like a man's perspective, just, you know, speaking to my friends who have close sisters or mums or whatever, like the idea of doing something that could upset a girl, you empathize with what it would feel like if your sister came back home crying because a guy mistreated them, and you don't want that for someone else's life. So I think you could be a bit more respectful. I know that's not always true, but I definitely have found a lot of the time in my life that my male friends who have close mum or sister relationships definitely do have that extra layer of like empathy.
The masculine and feminine energies balance each other out.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been a big thing for me. And like to what you said, I always had male friends growing up, and I'll always love them. They were my brothers.
Yeah.
I never had girlfriends growing up, and only in the past few years I've started to have that. Obviously, apart from my sister Liz, and it's amazing. Like the masculine and the feminine just complement each other so well, and yeah, I feel for the people that only have like one gendered friend.
Yeah. It's nice to just be friends with people because you actually enjoy like who they are as a person.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how they identify. Or
yeah, and it's definitely something that's come up quite a few times in my life, because I have, up until probably my 20s, I always got on a lot better with men than I did with women, just simply because I grew up with a lot of men around, and I obviously, like me and my brother being very close, I felt like I preferred boy things because we would do stuff together, and like I wasn't the most active kid. I was quite a fat little podgy thing back in the day, and I really just enjoyed doing stuff with him when I was younger, and I like gaming and I like cars, and I think, you know, there's a huge influence from like the male energy in my life that I didn't really ever feel like, I wasn't really ever someone who enjoyed like gossiping or, you know, going shopping and all that kind of stuff. It just doesn't really have an interest for me, and to be honest, I don't know why that is branded as something that women should be only interested in, to be honest, either. I think it's, again, like a lot of societal pressure. But when I went to school, like I went to an all-girls school, and the girls just did not get on with me because I didn't have anything in common with them, and I was also, on top of that, not a very good-looking kid. I was quite overweight, and I was really geeky, and I just didn't fit in. And I always just had a lot of male friends because I felt like they got me, and I could rip into them and give them a lot of banter, and they would give it back to me, and the girls just didn't really know how to take that sort of thing. And then recently, I guess in the last like 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8 years since I've gone to uni, started having that like balance of like the male and female energy, and it's so nice to have like friends who you just love because you love who they are as a person. But, you know, definitely with some of my male friends, I've had, you know, problems where I have really close male friends and they get like a girlfriend or something, and the girlfriend assumes that because I'm friends with them, I'm really close, I give them hugs like a brother and stuff, that something's happened between us. And again, it just comes into that sort of like that cultural conditioning that men and women can't be friends. Like when Harry met Sally or whatever, like the whole message is that women and men just can't just be friends. And I just think that's simply not true. I just think the resource of love is like an unlimited resource, and you can give that love to anybody, regardless of like their gender or their age or whatever. Like if you see the light in them and you think they're a beautiful person, and they show that they're there for you, you're there for them, you help each other grow, and you add value to each other's lives in a really meaningful way, I think your gender shouldn't really matter. But I think it's really nice to sort of be in a relationship with someone who gets that, and I think we both really enjoy having time with our opposite sex friends and our same sex friends. It's like a big group, and it's really nice to have that, because I do know a lot of people that I went to school with or went to uni with, they would be quite uncomfortable with the idea of like their boyfriends like going out with like a group of girls or whatever. But like some nights you've come out with us and it's just been you and the girls, and it's just so nice. Like you're just very comfortable.
I think at its core, it's just that we both have an understanding that we're all the same. and like regardless of what we're taught and regardless of the physical differences we perceive about each other, fundamentally at our core we're all the same. All life on this planet is one, and it doesn't matter if you have guy friends or girlfriends or friends that identify however they identify, like we're all one. We're all like we're all going
together.
through this experience together, and like it's taken a little while to get to this sort of understanding, but love is an infinite resource, and it's only limited if you believe that it is. I really want to get to a place where I can love absolutely everyone the same.
It's the
Even
goal.
like the people that like trigger you and like bring up like, you know, a lot of past traumas, and you put that on them, and like they upset you, like even those people, you can see that light in them because it exists in everyone, and like there is goodness in everyone, and over time we'll get there. And like, you know, we're going through this journey together, and we're human, but like it's a slow like process of
letting go,
unlearning.
And I definitely think, you know, when we first met, there were definitely aspects of our way of thinking that kind of fed into this already. I do think that we're both quite like philosophical about, you know, the meaning in life that we wanted to try and find for ourselves, and, you know, letting go of things like the rat race and the bullshit, and, you know, the striving for material things. But I think we were very close-minded in a lot of ways to some stuff when we first met, and I think over the last 3.5 years we've both sort of helped each other grow because we have so many open conversations about, you know, different ways to approach letting go of that trauma. And to be honest, I think, you know, me and you having conversations when we've just been chilling together, I've gotten over so much trauma that I didn't even know I had, because having that person to just talk to openly without any judgment and to make that safe space for you, it really helped me to share things about my childhood, and in turn, by sharing those things, I realised how they had affected my current behaviours as an adult, and it's really allowed me to let go of a lot of those perceptions of myself and of others, and, you know, my experiences. And, you know, through that, I think our path of becoming a little bit more open, and I think much more like compassionate and understanding as people, has really come really from starting that first beginning bit, which was meditation. And I remember when we were in the lockdown like 2 years ago, I started using the Calm app and meditating. I used to meditate on and off when I was younger, like I never really got into it consistently, but when the lockdown came, I don't know what happened, I can't remember how I even found it, but I just found the Calm app, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to start meditating every day to see how it changes me as a person. And I think I was meditating every day for like 2 months or a month before you got the app as well, and we started doing meditations every day together. And like over a year, I'd say that it really started to become obvious to me how changing the way that you let go of things, like when you notice and pay attention to things that are coming up in your mind, your emotions, you know, insecurities, like voices telling you that, you know, you're not good enough at this, or you should do this, or, you know, people are worrying about this, like all these little thoughts that are just coming from, you know, your mind trying to protect you based on past experiences. When you realize that stuff comes up, like being able to actively say, okay, that's here, but I don't have to attach to it or identify with it. I can just gently come back to being present, and instead of assuming loads of stuff, accept the situation for what it really is, and try and just be present in my response rather than coming from a place of past trauma or insecurity or whatever. And I really started to feel the difference in the way that I responded to my own thoughts, myself and my situations, and also just, you know, the lockdown wasn't an easy experience for some part of it, like being trapped in a house with 5 people, it can be difficult. And I really think that we started our growth then. We started to realise how, so noisy on this street, honestly, like every podcast I do is just sounds constantly. It's fine, we're being economists. But yeah, I don't know, I just think that meditation was sort of the first thing on this path of becoming a more like open and compassionate and loving person, and really finding and tapping into that self-love in like a big way, because think once you can start realizing that you are not your thoughts, you're not the emotions that come up or the traumas, like you're just experiencing those things, and you don't have to identify with the story that you tell yourself anymore. You can start letting that go slowly and like reprogramming how you approach situations and thinking and everything. And it's quite transformational, because you also then start thinking, okay, well, if I'm not my thoughts, but I'm always observing my thoughts and I'm seeing these things coming up, then what is the observer that is watching these thoughts constantly? Like who is the I that I feel if I'm not the thoughts? And it just started, for me anyway, down this like philosophical path of trying to understand like spirituality in a bigger way, and reading into all these different like spiritual traditions like Hinduism, Buddhism. I read some Cliff Notes versions of like the Quran and stuff. Like, I just was curious, like, what is it that all these people are talking about? Like, how philosophers as well thought about this problem, and scientists and neuropsychologists and all these different people, neuroscientists, sorry. And yeah, I don't know, it's just been a really transformational experience. And I really do think that it started from that moment of picking up that Calm app and starting to meditate every day.
Yeah, I think so too, genuinely, because when you get a slight time out from those thoughts and those behaviours, and you're not constantly being taken over by this never-ending flow of thoughts, you then, I then started to realise that, wow, number one, like when I'm getting in a place where I'm feeling angry, or I'm experiencing stress or shame or whatever spectrum of emotions, that for the first time ever, I had something else I could bring my attention to. Instead of like just going down this path of just being angry for the whole day, just being a dickhead to everyone, I could go, in moments, just go, oh wait,
I don't need to do this.
I can just
Snap
focus
out of
on my
it.
breath. And then just, I relax, my body relaxes, and it passes, and you let it go. And yeah, it was definitely the same for me, like learning about meditation, and then learning about the wisdom traditions that have a meditation practice, and really opening up to that. And then learning about the spiritual stuff, and then about how the quantum physics aspect of it, and the connectedness of all life, and
it all kind of links in.
Yeah.
There was a point where we were obsessively also listening to Alan Watts like all the time. Do you remember? We bought his books and stuff. But his books are really hard to follow. Like, I find it much easier to listen to him than to read what he has to say, because the language he uses is so difficult to understand when he's writing it down. Maybe it's because I'm dyslexic. But
I struggle as well.
Yeah, it's challenging. But I love listening to him, like the way he brings things back around. And he makes it such eloquent points about how he's trying to explain with language something that cannot be explained with language. It's just really fascinating. And also like Eckhart Tolle and people like that who sort of touched on this topic, they really inspired me. I love reading about all this stuff, and I do think that we've really changed as people. Like if we met ourselves now 3.5 years ago, I don't think we would have liked who we are now. I think we probably would have found who we are now kind of like hippy dippy, like, but at the same time, like there's a path you need to go down. I mean, when we first met, we were both like hardcore, like bro science gymmers with like, we loved eating meat in every meal. And I think we were both quite like hardcore atheists, and, you know, we had like big open aspirations to do great things with our lives. But I think we were coming from the perspective of like, you know, when you die, there's nothing after that, and we're just gonna make the most of the time we have. And we were still good people, but I think the way that we approached things was coming from a bit more of like a hollow perspective for like the overall meaning we wanted to get in our lives.
More egocentric.
It was more ego-centered, yeah. It's really interesting how I think us being together has really been a huge catalyst for that growth, because we've had someone that we can communicate with and like challenge each other on things. Like when you're in a relationship with the right person, I just think it's so powerful how you can challenge yourself, because they are the only person who's going to tell you exactly what you need to hear, even if you don't want to hear it. And you'll get angry and you'll be like, for fuck's sake, like put loads of walls up and come up with loads of excuses for why they're wrong, and, you know, maybe get defensive and lash out against them. And, you know, afterwards you then walk away and you're like, wait, this person loves me. They have no reason to be telling me something that's not true. Like it's coming from, well, not true, but that's not coming from a good place.
Yeah,
like
it's coming from a place of love.
It's always coming from a place of love. So you kind of go back and you think about it and like, but, you know, they do have a point there. And you, you think about it and you grow a lot from that.
Yeah.
I definitely think that's a really powerful thing about being in like open friendships or open relationships, where you are able to communicate in such a healthy way. I mean, yeah, so many things that I've tried because of you, like jiu-jitsu. I would have never tried that, and I hated it for 6 months, but I wanted to know why you loved it so much.
Everyone does.
And now I'm addicted to it. Like I can't get enough. And same for you. I think you probably would have never tried to go freelance and start your own business or anything, because I just think when you're on your own and you have programming from certain things when you're growing up, I just don't think that you necessarily know if that's the right path for you until someone who really cares about you gives you the push and says, I know you can do this.
I think it's just having that belief.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't believe in myself. And when you don't believe in yourself, I was just sabotaging anything I would try and get good at. I'd think of 1,000 reasons not to do it, 1,000 reasons why I couldn't do it and why I believed that I couldn't do it. But certainly when you have people, or in our case, like a person there that's telling you like you can do it, you just need to put the time in and bear with it and trust in the process.
Yeah. You still ultimately that needs to come from you. Like ultimately you have to get to the point that people are giving you support and they're there for you, but you need to believe in yourself. You need to want it for you. Like you need to believe that you deserve whatever it is that you're dreaming about. And I think, it was nice because we were both on that path of like learning to believe in ourselves and love who we are and what we have to offer, but we supported each other through it. And that was the perfect thing about it. Like we both weren't coming from a place of like deep insecurity where seeing the other person succeed made us feel intimidated. Instead, like seeing the other person do well was like, wow, yes, do it. Like I want you to do this. And it really came from a place of encouragement, like true encouragement. This is why I always say to people that you can't love other people until you learn first to love yourself, because as long as your cup is like being empty to give everything you have to other people, if you can't fill your own cup up, then you're never going to be satisfied enough to truly like give to others from a place of abundance. Like you need to be in a place where you know your worth, you know your value, you're happy with who you are, you don't wish to be like anyone else, you're just happy to be existing in the body that you have and the life that you have, the opportunities that you're creating for yourself. And you're then, when you find that peace within yourself, that you're satisfied with what you have and what you're trying to work for in your own life, I think it's much easier then to give that love to others, because if you see the light in yourself, you can see the light in everyone else. And I do think that the way that we treat other people is a reflection of how we treat ourselves. So, and I do think that you have to find self-love first, because otherwise every other relationship or interaction you have, it's coming from a place of needing validation. Like you're in a relationship with someone because you don't really feel happy to be on your own, and you need that person to tell you that you're beautiful every day. Otherwise you just don't believe it. And if they don't say that to you every day, then you feel like there's something wrong with you, you know, and you need to be in a place where like, you know that you're beautiful in the inside, the outside, like whoever's with you is lucky to be there. And if they don't give you what you need, that's okay. You're going to be fine without them. Because then when you're with someone, you're with them because you want to be, not because you need to be.
Yeah, not because you need them to tell you that you're worthy of love, or you're good enough, or whatever. And like, I definitely agree with that. It does come from that place of loving yourself and just like accepting yourself in the form that you're in. Yeah. And like, you're the only one that can be you. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, even when I say self, like, I don't mean the self of like the identity that we have in this lifetime. It's like, it's the big self, you know, like you have to just accept that like, this is your experience, moment to moment. You are always changing. Your opportunities are always coming. Like, you don't have to be attached to like the story of who you tell yourself that you are. Like, you just have to own the experience that you have and try and live as presently as you can through each moment, being loving, compassionate, open, curious, playful. And it's so freeing when you get to that point, because I just feel like you attract people into your life who seem to be on the same level. Like when we moved to Oxford together, because I was working there, I moved because I was sick of commuting and the lockdown was coming to an end. You know, you came with me. You didn't plan to. You said, "Oh, I'm never going to move to Oxford," and I was like, "Okay, that's cool. I got my own." And within like 2 weeks, you basically lived there as well. And we just met so many amazing people there, and we weren't really even trying. Like, it was in the lockdown. We didn't go out or anything because we couldn't, and it just happened that all the people in our house that moved in just came at just the right time. Like, they were on the same sort of frequency as us, and they all were really open to like having a laugh, but also having big conversation, having adventure, and we just became a real family. And I just think when you're in that place where you're choosing people very carefully, like, because there were a couple of people who came into that group who were not really on our vibe. And instead of doing what a lot of people do and just accepting anyone who comes and saying, yeah, okay, you're my best friend for life right now because, you know, I need someone to validate me. Instead, we were like, okay, I love you as a person. You are who you are. I accept that, but we're not on the same frequency, and like we're not helping each other be our best selves. We're bringing out darker sides in each other. So we just need to like gently make space from that relationship without making a big deal out of it. And I think we did do that for a few people that we just felt weren't on the same level. And I think because of that, we cultivated like a really beautiful group of people who were just so on our level. And we really helped each other get over a lot of stuff and learn so much about life, about ourselves and about each other. And they're like our family now.
Exactly. They are beautiful people, and I'll love them forever.
Yeah.
And all of them.
Yeah.
And but like to make those connections, you have to also make space.
Yeah.
And like there's with people in my life that are my brothers, and I'll always love them.
Yeah.
I'll always will, but we weren't on the same path, and we were going in different directions, and we were still tethered, and we were both holding each other back, and like it's really hard to let them go.
Do you want to like give a little bit more context about what you mean by that? Like you were tethered and stuff. Like, was this like friend for life or somebody that you?
Yeah, like well, my friends at the time.
Yeah.
Like my best friends.
How long had you been friends with them for?
10 years maybe.
Mad, that's a long time.
8 to 10 years or something, and like I went through so much with them, and like developed so much, and like I'm the person I am today because of them in a part. And like, you know, we were brothers, you know, not blood, but like everything else, and just became different, and like it was hard to make space from them and let them go, but when I did, I thought, fuck, I've got no friends now. Like the people that were always there for me, and I was there for them, we weren't.
You're just changing, weren't you?
We were changing, and like it's nothing against them at all. It's
just
life.
life. You just have to let go of people.
You just
sometimes.
change sometimes, and like the most loving thing you can do is to let them go and to make space. And when you make space, and you're then allowing space for other people to come into your life.
Yeah, it's so true.
And it was literally at the same time after I'd let those guys go that other beautiful people came into my life, into our lives, and like, I'm sure they're doing better now because we're not holding each other back.
That's the thing. I've had so many friends throughout my life that I've felt like they were going to be my friends for life, and then for whatever reason you just change. Like you grow and you realise that the people that you were when you were really close, you needed each other then, and you helped each other through a lot of stuff, and you had beautiful moments you'll always be thankful for. And then you sort of get to a point where you realise that you're so different now, and you've both grown into like different paths completely. And I agree, like there's a point where sometimes you have to let those people go so that they can be their best selves without holding you back, and you can be your best self without holding them back. And you never know, you might reconnect with those people again in the future. Your paths might end up going in the same route at some point, like in Siddhartha or Govinda and Siddhartha crossing paths at multiple points throughout their lives. But you know, the love that you have for them is always there. I think you just have to sometimes accept that, like, you know, your path doesn't have to stay entwined with the same people the whole way. And a huge part of, I think, this journey of life is learning to let go of our attachments to things that don't serve us, and, you know, or attachment in general as well, attachment to the outcome and to validation or to whatever. And I think it's sometimes the most loving thing that you can do for someone is to let them go, and for yourself as well. And, you know, us living in Oxford was a great exercise of letting go, because it was really hard to leave. Like we basically came to the end of our tenancy, and we realised Oxford's really expensive, and you were not enjoying the job that you had there. You're working really hard, and sometimes you're finishing at like 6 o'clock, getting back at like 7, and you just had no time to do the things that you wanted to do, and you know, commuting really far as well. And I know how much that sucks. So we thought, okay, screw it, let's go to Newcastle. I loved it when I lived there before I met you, and I told you so much about it. And it's so cheap up here as well. So we got this huge room and moved up here. But before we left, we had this amazing group of like 15 people or more that we just loved to bits. Every single one of them. We had so many great times. And a lot of people were also leaving the same sort of time, but it was still really hard to leave. And I definitely felt that, you know, it was like your first time really living outside of home when we lived there together for that 9 months. And I think it was your first time letting go of people who you had lived with and had such a strong connection with. And I think I had gone to uni, so I had done that a few times when I'd had to say goodbye to people who were graduating, or I was going to, placement and they were going to leave when I was there. And I sort of had gotten a bit more used to letting go of people. And I think you found it quite hard at first.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah.
Because you grow with these people, you've been through so much with them and their family.
Yeah.
And like, I knew that it was never going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
You
letting
wanted to
go
hold
of
on to
that,
it.
and I wanted to hold on to that as much as I could.
Mm.
And I've realised by moving here that it's okay that it's never going to be the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I'm always going to love them.
Yeah.
And like, the only constant in life is that things change.
Yeah.
And I just now look at it like we had amazing times, and I look back on this memory so fondly, and I'll catch myself like chuckling about them. And like, we still see them now,
Yeah,
they're
all
still
the time.
so close.
We message
but, like,
them all the time. They're family.
yeah, they're family, but like, we all have our own paths, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think a really important thing that needs to be realised, and it's something I think I truly realised the first time when I came to Newcastle the first time, because I knew nobody here, and I moved into a house with these 3 boys that, like, one of them was quite nice, but the other 2 were horrible to live with, and they were all really messy and not my level at all. They seemed really nice before I moved in, and then I moved in with them and I just realised they were quite misogynistic and like just not very nice boys to be in a house with. So I was like, shit, I moved up to Newcastle, don't get on with my housemates, and I have no idea how I'm going to make friends up here. And like throughout the year, I just put myself out there. Like I met people at this bar called Pleased to Meet You, and I just like ended up becoming like their little house cat, like going to their staff parties and stuff, and joining them for like all their nights out, and became really good friends with a bunch of them. I met my friend Sarah through there, who's still like one of my sisters. Like I speak to her all the time. You love Sarah, she's amazing.
Love Sarah.
And hopefully she'll be on the podcast at some point. And then I went to this CrossFit gym and I met loads of people through CrossFit and through the powerlifting team who trained there, and I just made beautiful connections in the music scene. I went into this open mic and I met some guys who did open mics and got into singing, and by the time I left the first time, I had like 60 people at my leaving do, and I loved every single one of them. Every single one I had beautiful connections with, and I knew there was going to be a lot of them that I'd never see again, I probably never speak to again, but I loved whatever moments I had shared with them. And the thing that I really learned that year was wherever you go, whatever you do in your life, you can always recreate whatever it is that you loved about the place you were in before. You can always make connections with people. You can always put yourself out there. You can find fun things to do. You can find amazing people on your level. You can cultivate a life for yourself that you truly love, no matter where you go. And like the place and the people there are not what determines how good your life is. You are what determines how good your life is. Like the lens that you look through and the proactive actions that you're taking to put yourself in positions to meet people and to create something that you haven't experienced before. And I really love the adventure of moving to a new place, knowing no one, and seeing what happens. Like sometimes you move somewhere and you have quite a chilled experience. You meet a few people that you connect with a lot and you have a great time having a bit of space for yourself. And sometimes you move somewhere and you meet this whole family of people and you have so many beautiful connections, and it's incredible. It's like going traveling. And I think letting go is quite an exciting thing sometimes, because you don't love the people that you're letting go of any less. You're just moving on to the next chapter of your life, and there's going to be more incredible people and connections and experiences that you can't even imagine waiting for you around the corner. And I really love that constant change. I think it's really something that keeps you feeling alive when you can constantly be changing what you're doing with your time and your life, and challenging yourself to grow into situations that you're not 100% comfortable with, and learning how to think on your own feet and just grow into a situation that you probably never thought you would actually be in. I really love that aspect of life, and I think it's such an important thing that everyone should try doing, is just get out of your comfort zone, because life begins outside of your comfort zone. As long as you're staying in the same little town that you've always been in, hanging out with the same people that you've always hung out with, and not introducing yourself to new ideas or cultures or experiences, your life is just going to be the same as how it always has been. And I feel like if you know exactly what your entire life is going to look like, then what's the point of living?
I'm sure a lot of people can attest to when they'll leave home, might be years, and you go back and you're like, wow,
So different.
Well, I was just going to say the opposite. Like,
Oh, really?
you come back and it's just like exactly the same
Oh,
because like
see.
people are just doing the same stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like, you have to just whatever the baby steps are for you at the time, you have to just live your life
Yeah.
and just get out there. And like, if there's something you're interested in,
risks.
just do it. Because like, you can't wait for retirement. You might not get there.
Yeah.
Like, you can't wait for the perfect conditions. Or maybe I want to do my first jiu-jitsu class, but I'm scared. I was so scared. I don't want to get beaten up. I don't want to like get choked out by someone. But like, I was so scared and so nervous. I went there. I was wearing my surfing rash guard and my PE shorts from school. So I had no shorts. Like, and I went there with my best mate at the time. He was like, mate, just go, yeah. Just go. I've been doing it for a few months now. You'll love it eventually. And I did it. And like, it doesn't matter what you do. You could be jiu-jitsu, you could be yoga, you could be playing an instrument. Like, when we were going to perform for the first time, like we performed for the first time at open mic like 2 months ago or something like that. And I was so anxious and so scared. And like, in my mind, I was building it up, and in my body, it's like unbelievable stress.
Yeah.
And I just practicing like all
Constantly,
the time.
yeah.
And then the first week, I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I need to practice more. And I practiced, and we did it. And after, I was like, wow.
We smashed it. We
Yeah,
won the prize.
We smashed it. But like, there's always going to be that thing.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that feeling of
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is like the worst thing that I could possibly do.
Yep. It doesn't matter how many times you get on a plane and go solo traveling, you're always just as nervous, thinking, will I make friends? Will it be good? Like, will it be safe? Will I make the right decisions? Like, it doesn't matter how many times you do something, you always feel nervous. Like, even now, after like almost 2 years of doing jiu-jitsu on and off with the lockdowns, I still feel a bit nervous when I go in. Like, depending on what class it is, if it's like an advanced class, I'm like, gonna get my butt kicked. And am I on the ball today? I don't know. And I think I quite enjoy that not being comfortable side of life, because I think the more comfortable you can be with the discomfort of growing into new things, the more enriched your life is going to be.
Yeah.
Because I think comfort really is the enemy of growth. The more comfortable you become, I think the more you stop seeking to challenge yourself, because you get used to like, oh, this is comfortable. I don't want to be cold. I don't want to challenge myself. I don't want to be stupid and be bad at something. Like, you don't take risks to try new things. And I really enjoy the aspect of life that comes with like doing something that makes you uncomfortable. Like, now I'm getting into climbing, and I'm so afraid of heights since I had a climbing accident when I was like 15, and it feels so nice to actually be excited to go climbing now. But before, I was like, I'm just never going to go, because I was so afraid of the discomfort of being up there and having that fear of falling or whatever. And you know, the more you challenge yourself to do it, it is uncomfortable, but you start to realise, oh, I can do this. I can get up on stage and sing. I can go travelling on my own for like a year. Like, I can start my own business and, you know, make my dreams come true. I can do all of these things. It might not be easy, but I can do it. And I think the more that we challenge ourselves to break out of the comfort zone, meet new people, challenge who we want to be and grow, the more enriched and fulfilling our lives can be. Whatever that means for you is very individual. And I think every single person has their unique formula of what the perfect life looks like. But I certainly think that, you know, in this podcast and on my channel, I really want to try using the insights from beautiful people like yourself, my life, my friends, people who inspire me, and just things that have sort of come up for me in my life, that try and help people realize how to do that. Like, how can you start figuring out what your formula is for happiness, and like stop allowing, you know, your fear of what other people will think to dictate the quality of your life. You know, like, I just think it's so sad to allow the thoughts of people that you don't even know to dictate the quality of your life and what happens to you in your life. And I think it's so powerful when you can break out of that. You can start just being like, fuck it, I'm going to take risks, I'm going to try things, see how it goes. And life can be a really beautiful adventure when you start letting go of a lot of that stuff and start allowing more into your existence. But yeah, there's so much more we could talk about, honestly, and I feel like we haven't scratched the surface.
Go for hours.
Yeah, probably going to go for hours when we drive back down for 5 hours now. But thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate you, and I'm excited to share more about you and me and life and the things that we talk about all the time with the beautiful audience who are going to be supporting this podcast and the channel. And For anyone who's interested to watch our filmmaking and travel escapades, check out Harvest Productions. I'll put a link to that channel on this video and in the description, so feel free to go check it out. It's very new, but it'd be great to have you along for our adventure.
Be very exciting.
Yeah. Louis, before we go, do you have some advice that you would give the audience from your experiences that sort of will help them to find a way of fulfilling and cultivating a life that they love?
Just think of something that you're curious about. Write it down. Could be anything. Maybe it's like, oh, I wanna write the book, or I've always wanted to do this, I wanted to do that. Everyone's got something. And just do it. Just like whatever it is, like you're never gonna be good at anything when you start. Doesn't matter what it is, you're always gonna be bad, you're always gonna have so many stumbling blocks along the way, but it's part of it. And I just think like, go there with a low ego, just accept that like, you're gonna be crap when you start, and that's cool. Everyone was. Everyone was bad at something when they first started. And just go and do it, and be open with the people there. Just be honest, and just enjoy it, because we're most of us are so lucky in the situation that we're in, and we can really have amazing lives and do whatever we want. But it just starts with you just getting out of your comfort zone and just doing whatever that is, and you'll just learn along the way. And you'll meet amazing people that are like you, and you'll start to do more and more stuff, and then you'll be like, wow, you look back and be like, wow, I'm a totally different person, totally different views in life, because I met all these amazing people along the way. And it all started with you just going out and taking a risk.
Yeah, so true. Thanks, Louis.
Thank you.
Love you very much.
Love you too.
And I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Oh, love you.